Hello and welcome back. We have been discussing about how water as the arche with Thales' statement has been one of the most profound axioms in modern times. We had seen how the various water techniques vis-a-vis the well-being programs that takes off today can duly be credited to Thales' water as arche. We will be discussing in this lecture more about how, and rightly so, Thales had been radically ahead of his time, and what is the take of the contemporary philosophers on Thales' view that water is the arche. This is Dr. Ananya Barua, Associate Professor, Department of Philosophy, Hindu College. So, we do see that Thales of Miletus, 624-546 BCE, is credited as the first philosopher in the Western tradition, and although he did not directly explore hydrotherapy, Vatsu or aqua yoga or whatever we had discussed in our previous lecture, he was definitely radically ahead of his time in how he interconnected themes that resonate with these modern practices, particularly water as a unifying, dynamic and vital force. Now, Thales anticipated certain key ideas that align with concepts like buoyancy, warmth and resistance. Let us explore. 1. We understand that water is the arche, the first principle. Thales famously declared that everything is water, penta hyor, not just in a literal sense, but as a metaphor, physical substrate. He believed that all life originates from water and its transformations account for the diversity of phenomena. Now, this very thought process, we see that just as water is foundational in Thales' philosophy, it is central in hydrotherapy, Vatsu and aqua yoga, not merely as a medium but as a healing presence. These practices rely on water's ability to support buoyancy, warmth, which is temperature, and resist hydrodynamic pressure principles that Thales grasped intuitively as essential to life and transformation. 2. Implied understanding of thermodynamics, which is warmth. While Thales did not write about temperature explicitly, his observations of change, ice to water to steam and so on and so forth, suggests that an early recognition of heat-induced transformation. Connection to warmth in hydrotherapy. Warm water in therapy soothes muscles and calms the nervous system, something ancient healers understood experientially. Thales' openness to natural processes rather than supernatural causes puts him in alignment with embodied healing systems that work with nature. Buoyancy and balance, a proto-scientific mindset. Although buoyancy was formally explained much later by Archimedes, Thales was reportedly able to measure the height of pyramids by their shadows, indicating a deep sensitivity to proportion, spatial reasoning, and physical balance. Connection to buoyancy in water exercises. Water balancing exercises depend on an intuitive sense of equilibrium, much alike the principles Thales applied to geometry and natural observation. His insight that nature follows orderly, predictable principles echoes in how modern hydrotherapy employs water to balance and support the body. Resistance as dynamic equilibrium. Thales' view that cosmos is alive and in constant motion, where opposing forces like wet, dry, warm, cold interact. Connection to resistance in aqua practices. In water, resistance is fluid and non-linear, just like the dynamic tensions Thales saw in the universe. This interplay builds strength, awareness, and calm, similar to how Thales imagined motion and change as part of a living system. Holistic and naturalistic thinking. Thales sought natural explanations for natural phenomena, rejecting mythological accounts. This empirical spirit is a precursor to mind-body approaches in contemporary wellness disciplines. Connection to Vatsu and Aqua Yoga. These practices aim to unite the physical and mental through natural elements and intuitive movements. Thales' idea of an ensouled cosmos, the universe is full of gods, parallels the energetic spiritual dimension found in water-based therapies. So then we come to this summary, that is Thales a proto-hydrotherapist? While he wasn't designing pool exercises, Thales' ideas laid the philosophical groundwork for viewing water as a source of harmony and change, trusting in nature's processes for healing and balance, emphasizing interconnection, transformation, and equilibrium. So we see that water is not merely a substance, but a medium of renewal, which means shifting our perspective from seeing water as just a passive material to recognizing it as an active, dynamic environment that facilitates transformation, healing, and rebirth. Quickly, let us revisit then what is the difference between substance versus medium vis-a-vis water. Substance refers to the physical composition of something, its molecules, mass, and state, like H2O as liquid, solid, and gas. A medium, in contrast, is a space or condition through which energy, change, or life flows. Water as a substance is H2O. Water as a medium is a field of motion, energy, transfer, healing, and life processes. Biological renewal. Every cell in the human body depends on water for transporting nutrients, flushing out toxins, enabling chemical reactions, metabolism. Without water, there is no regeneration. It is the medium through which life maintains and renews itself. Emotional and mental renewal. In practices as discussed like Vatsu hydrotherapy or aqua yoga, water buoys or buoyancies the body, reduces gravity's pull, and soothes the nervous system. The fluid, enveloping nature of water mimics the womb, creating a space for psychological safety and emotional rebirth. In this way, water becomes a symbolic and actual space for letting go, floating, and returning anew, not just as a material, but a process. Spiritual renewal. Cultures and religions have long used water in ritual purifications, myths of creation and rebirth, meditative immersions. These traditions view water not as inert matter, but as a conduit for transformation. One cannot step into the same river twice, said Heraclitus. The river changes you, and you change it. Dynamic properties of water make renewal possible. Water has unique physical qualities that enable renewal. Solvent properties. It dissolves and carries away waste. Thermal regulation. It cools, warms, and balances body temperature. Malleability. It adapts, flows, yields, yet can curve stone. These properties make water a living environment of change, not a static object. Philosophical perspective: water as process, not thing. Inspired by thinkers like Thales, Laozi and modern systems theories comes up with water is verb-like. It flows, transforms, renews. We participate in it as a living system, not just interact it as a tool. So water is not just there. It is always, always doing something: cooling, supporting, caring, soothing, transforming. Water is thus not merely a substance. It is a medium of renewal because it enables life and regeneration on a cellular level, facilitates emotional release and psychological safety, symbolizes rebirth and spiritual cleansing, embodies motion, adaptability, and balance. It is both the stage and the agent of change. Now that the background of water and its various techniques associated is clear, we are good to go with what the contemporary philosophers, scientists and historians take on Thales of Miletus, water as RKEs. So we see that almost everyone, philosophers, scientists, historians of ideas, recognize Thales of Miletus as a visionary figure whose work and foundational stones for philosophy, science and metaphysics has been discussed. They celebrate him not simply for what he knew, but for how he shifted the mode of thinking from mythos to logos, from divine narratives to natural inquiry. Let us check Bertrand Russell. Bertrand Russell, in his History of Western Philosophy, Russell calls Thales as the first philosopher and scientist. Why? Because Thales broke from mythological explanations and introduced a naturalistic worldview, claiming water or hydro as the arche, first principle of all things. Bertrand Russell saw this as a radical cognitive leap, not because water was the correct answer, but because it was a testable hypothesis, a move towards rational investigation. To quote Russell, the originality of Thales consisted in asking a general question: what is the world made up of? Karl Popper. Now, Popper praised Thales as one of the earliest proponents of critical rationalism in his work Philosophy of Science. He saw Thales's theories as a bold conjecture subject to refutation, thus aligning with Popper's own view of scientific progress through falsification. Thales marks the beginning of scientific myth-making, where rational speculation replaces inherited dogma. Thales, for Popper, is not important for getting it right, but for proposing explanations open to critical discussion. Michael Serres. In his work Philosophy of Science and Communication, Serres interprets Thales symbolically as a founder of relational thinking between nature, body and elements. In Serres's ecological and postmodern framework, Thales's choice of water as the origin is celebrated not just as a physical hypothesis, but a holistic fluid ontology. For Serres, Thales anticipates a non-dualistic world where humans are in and of nature, not separate from it. Thales is relevant to environmental philosophy and fluid metaphysics. For Werner Jaeger, classicist and historian of ideas. In the theology of the early Greek philosophers, Jaeger views Thales as the pioneer of a rational theology. He highlights how Thales saw that the world as infused with divine motion and soul, yet not bound to Homeric gods. This vision opens the door to natural theology, where the divine is expressed through order and motion, not anthropomorphic figures. Jaeger sees Thales as straddling mythic reverence and rational inquiry, a unique intellectual achievement. Fifth, Fritjof Capra, in his work Systems Theorist and Eco-Philosopher, Capra links Thales to holistic science and early systems thinking. Capra is interested in the interconnectivity of life and sees Thales' view of a unifying substance, which is water, as a precursor to ecological holism. Thales is celebrated for seeing the world as interpenetrated by a unifying force, much like how quantum physics sees energy fields. Capra draws a bridge from ancient metaphysics to modern systems ecology. David Abram, in his Philosopher and Ecologist, who is a philosopher and an ecologist, in The Spell of the Sensuous, Abram emphasizes sensory experience and elemental philosophy. He honors thinkers like Thales, who listened to nature rather than abstracting from it. Thales' idea that water is life's essence resonates with indigenous cosmologies and ecological philosophies. Abram sees Thales as a visionary ecophenomenologist far ahead of Enlightenment mechanistic dualism. Now, if we quickly check this PPT as being displayed here, we see the list of philosophers and why they celebrate Thales. Thinker Bertrand Russell celebrates Thales for he was the first to replace myth with natural explanation. Karl Popper, early model of falsifiable scientific thinking. Michael Serres, forerunner of ecological and fluid metaphysics. Werner Jaeger bridged mythos and logos, creating rational theology. Capra, proto-systems thinker anticipating ecological interconnectedness. David Abram, elemental sensory, non-anthropocentric thinker. So we see that compelling way to trace Thales' legacy into the present is a look at the theories and thinkers who continue his fundamental questions about the nature, unity, and composition of reality. While Thales said everything is water, what he really initiated was a search for the unifying principle of existence, a move towards systematic rational explanations of the cosmos. We can also talk about David Bohm, quantum wholeness and the implicate order, and we see that in Bohm's theory of the implicate order posits that beneath apparent separateness lies a deeper undivided wholeness, a kind of fluid and folded order out of which all phenomena unfold. Like Thales, Bohm rejected reductionism and saw reality as interconnected and dynamic. His use of fluid metaphors and holistic fields as ontological primaries strongly echoes Thales' water as arche. So the parallel that we see is both David Bohm and Thales see change and motion as fundamental. Both seek a unified field of being beneath diversity. Capra, as we have discussed in his systems thinking and ecological unity, in the Tao of Physics and the Systems view of life, argues for an interconnected, dynamic universe where no entity exists in isolation. His vision of a networked reality shaped by flows of energy and matter aligns with Thales' attempt to find continuity beneath diversity. Kepler draws from Eastern philosophies, quantum physics, and systems biology. So, the continuation in Kepler's idea of life as a web of relationships updates Thales' idea of an elemental continuum. We also see that panpsychism and process philosophy, Whitehead and Chalmers, thinkers like Whitehead and David Chalmers suggest that consciousness or experiential flow is a basic feature of the universe. This process of metaphysics replaces substance with dynamic becoming, a move that began with Thales' idea of all things being alive or having soul. Everything is full of gods. So we see that philosophical continuation, Thales', who is a vitalist's view of nature, is reviewed in non-reductive, process-oriented philosophies. Now in this PPT as displayed in this chart, we do see the thinker, theory, core idea and how it continues Thales' work. David Bohm's core idea has been about implicate order, undivided wholeness, and how it continues Thales' work, water-like field as the unifying flow. Kepler's core idea has been about systems, thinking or ecology, and we see its connection with Thales when he talks about interconnection and dynamism of all life. There is also Prigoghine's core idea about order from chaos of fluid systems, and how it continues with Thales' work is through motion and transformation as the core reality. Further, when we talk about the string theory of modern physics, its core idea that all matter is energy vibration, we see that it continues Thales' work through it seeks a unifying principle arche like Thales. There is also Whitehead and Chalmers, whose core idea is consciousness or processes is fundamental, and how it continues Thales' work is through reality as living, dynamic, not static substance. So we see that Thales lives on in every thinker who dares to ask, what is the one beneath the many? What flows through everything? In that sense, whether in fluid dynamics, systems biology, cosmology, or metaphysics, many present-day theories are modern reflections of Thales' elemental quest. And in this, we do see why and how Thales has been one of the brightest minds of the past, and rightly so. He has been declared as the father of philosophy. And what he started on with as water as the arche, it continues even today, with water being used in various techniques for holistic, wholesome well-being, to a lot of present-day historians, philosophers, scientists, all celebrating water and agreeing that yes, there is this water which is fluid in nature, which is flexible in nature, and which rightly befits to be the arche in all its truest sense. Thank you so much.